Hello. Can you please name yourself? George, can you please name yourself and...
My name is George Singleton.
Yes?
I am the 2007-2009 European Union Humanitarian Grantee.
Yes?
I am the Supreme Commander of International War on Poverty, Part 2,
Yes?
which this is an activity of. The European Union mandated me to address the poverty issues on the planet, and we're the only organization that's independent enough to be able to do it. We've identified some very serious problems. And the number one serious problem is continuing to allow human beings to think that they're hunter-gatherers, when actually what they are herbivore horticulturalists.
Okay, George, thank you very much. And how, the first question straight away arises, how do you see the human evolution? Do you think we came out from the monkeys, as per Darwin, or something else? Because if we came out from the monkeys, they do eat meat sometimes. They are polyphagous, omnivores, yeah? Getting vitamins and minerals from the meat and vegetables. So what would you say about that?
That's totally bullshit. Anybody that thinks that and talks in that manner has no understanding of how life developed on Earth. The thinking that human beings evolved from primates is totally backwards. Actually, the primates came from us. It's very clear. When you go back and you do your homework, you find that there were ancient humanids. They call them humanids. These are human-like creatures going back to 800,000 BC. Then, at 230,000 BC, human beings were created. What is lost in this is that there was a competition between hominids who were experimenting with being predators versus those who continued to be herbivores. No one wants to deal with that. Well, they have no other way than to deal with that. In other words, when the U.S. Academy of Sciences lied in November of 2017 and said that the human being is an omnivore evolution, that's a stone-faced lie. The human being is not an omnivore. The biochemistry of the human being is not omnivore.
Okay, George, let me go to a second question then. Why you do not take into the consideration a medical and biological researches about the structure of the digestive system? Because it is polyphagous in it, and we can eat everything. However, our food path is not long enough, right? Like, for example, cows do have, so they can eat only grass. From other side, our digestive system and food path is quite similar to predators, which kind of brings us to a conclusion that we are more like a predator, so we have to eat meat.
That's total ignorance. What you're talking to me about is total ignorance. Okay? If we go back to the father of medicine, Hippocrates, okay? He clearly addresses this issue. He clearly says that human beings evolved as herbivores, and that oats is the #1 food for us. So this is just bullshit. Anybody that talks to me like that is ignorant. Okay? There is no structure in the human body or any proof that the human body is being destroyed by being an herbivore. It's fallacy. What we do have is another opposite response. What is that? Autoimmune reactions. Almost every disease that we talk about is an autoimmune reaction caused by inflammation. You answer me. You answer me the following. How come there's inflammation involved in heart attacks, heart disease, stroke, etc., etc., etc.? How come there is inflammation? It's inflammation because you're eating antigens. And the antigens is meat, you stupid motherfuckers.
Thank you, George.
Understand that human beings have only been around for 230,000 years. And understand again that unless you do your homework, you're going to be very confused about what was going on at 1.5 million years ago in the hominid world. In the hominid world at 1.5 million trillion years, 1.5 million years ago, there were organisms out there who looked like they were humans, and they were going around eating other humans. There were hominids out there who were eating just animals. There were hominids out there that were being omnivores. And then, obviously, there must have been the successor of the human race that were herbivores. Now see, you must understand that if you give an organism that is a vegan genome animal, they're going to have autoimmune reactions, meaning they're going to have inflammation-based responses. That's what you see everywhere in terms of sicknesses here on Earth right now. Every one of them is inflammation. Heart attacks, inflammation. Heart failure, inflammation. Stroke, inflammation. Sepsis, inflammation. What are you guys inflamed about? Inflammation coming from antigens. You know what an antigen is? An antigen is something that the body reacts to as a poison. Well, what is it that the body could possibly act to as a poison? Meat, dummy.
George, next question would be the statement that we can replace all the vitamins from the meat with the vegetables or supplements is correct, but unreal for the pre-historical inhabitants. Or why they had to live in one, I mean, you know, in order for them, prehistoric inhabitants, yeah, in order for them to be vegan, they had to live only in one side of the planet, you know, because in more coldest places it would be impossible to get so much vegetables and fruits, you know, like in Alaska or like, you know, in Siberia, for example, you know. So how do you go about that?
You must understand that these weather problems were created by the behavior of human beings of destroying the ecosystem. In other words, if you look in your history of Earth, you'll see that where the North and South Pole are now covered with ice, these places were not covered with ice hundreds of millions of years ago. What happened? Well, what happened was that we humans, have simply screwed up the planet. You see, you must understand that Earth is off axis, okay? Upside down and off axis. Earth is upside down and off axis. So, for those areas where it's cold, obviously you're going to have a problem, aren't you? You're going to have to eat root plants, you're going to have to but you don't have any excuse for being a cannibal or to eat flesh. There's no excuse for it. Just because there's weather problems and you only had a 90-day growing season, you only have a 90-day growing season, you have a 90-day growing season. When you run out of food, does that mean that you start eating meat? You would if you're stupid. In other words, if you know that your body is vegan genome set up, why would you eat meat? Because then you're going to have inflammation-based autoimmune reactions, heart attacks, heart disease, stroke. Do I get it? Is it something that you can't comprehend? You cannot put diesel in a gasoline engine. Dummies! And do you really believe that Genesis 1:29? Genesis 1:29, which was written by Moses in 1350 BC, he said, be vegan. Do you think that that's a imaginative thing? No. It was based upon the School of On knowledge. The School of On is the one who created human beings in the first place. Do you think that Hippocrates would have come up with what he came up with? He came up with that we were herbivores. Where did this idea that we were predator hunters come from? The Neanderthals and their Scythian spin-off, who are into killing things and eating things and making money on your getting sick. Again, if you are a vegan genome and you eat meat, you're going to have autoimmune reactions of heart attack, stroke, heart failure, etc., etc. I mean, I'm not talking rocket science here. And that's what I'm bringing to you. I'm bringing to you the solution of the disease problems on the earth. I'm bringing to you the solution for the prosperity problems on the earth. Meaning that all the food that's being used to feed stupid animals could be used to feed people. Okay? Third, and this is most important, unless you are eating the right food, you're not going to be able to deal with these 3% of the people calling themselves the rich and the super rich who are controlling 98% of everything. How are you going to let 3% of the people control 98% of everything? And then tell you it's your fault, that you're poverty stricken. And they're controlling everything. And how do they do it? Through monopoly. So, all I can say is that after today, no one's going to be able to say, well, we don't know why it is this way. We don't understand why 3% of the people control 98% of everything. And we don't understand why there's a 66% cancer rate. And we don't understand why 80% of the people that are dying of autoimmune reactions. Now, you can't say that anymore. Because I have come here and told you that I was given information. They burnt down the library in 1986 to keep this information from you. And 30 years later, I still come forward, go through hell, living outside for 40 years to bring this information to you. And you're going to still tell me that the original human genome was not vegan? It's obvious it's vegan. Anybody with any kind of brains knows it's vegan. Because when you look at the disease pattern, it's clearly autoimmune reactions that you're looking at.
Thank you very much, George. And next question, if you allow me, sounds like that. The brain of human being, consists mainly of fats. And there are indispensable amount of, for its development. Vegetable food is not able to give the same amount that the animal food can. And to get it only from nuts and avocado, it's very difficult and not really feasible in certain latitudes and countries. Again, we're going back to cold countries nowadays and stuff like, how are we gonna go about fats for the brain?
Easy. Fats for the brains come from the source of fats. And the source of fats are the nuts and seeds. Pecans, walnuts, sunflowers, pumpkin seeds. That's where your fats come from. Okay? Your omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids come from not only the avocado, but also come from the super blue-green algae, spirulina. It's a joke for anybody to insult me okay, that I don't know what I'm talking about. What I'm telling you is that I can prove it, and I've got $300,000 for anybody to show up and take it from me. That's what this press conference is about. I got $300,000, and I have a debate on July the 13th, and I am challenging the Francis Crick Institute, the American Medical Association, the British Medical Association, and a few other organizations that should be able to respond to show up. Okay? And when it's over with, they're going to owe me $100,000 on each debate issue. Because you cannot beat me. You cannot beat me. You have not issued and you have not given me one question that I have not answered properly. Because the reason is because I'm basing everything on the truth of the vegan genome of the human being. You can't create an omnivore evolution of a human being because it never happened. It never will happen because of the inflammation response from antigens. And let's make it very clear, because I don't think you get it. The human body cannot use proteins made from a cow. The human body cannot use fats from a cow. The human body can only use elements that its liver produces. You understand? Otherwise, it's an autoimmune reaction. Now that is the truth of it. And no one can beat me on this issue. I am the world expert on this issue. I have 3 books out on the issue, and I am challenging anybody to come take my $300,000 from me. And I'm not even worried about it.
Thank you very much, George. It's very
I'm not even worried about losing it.
George, you keep talking and linking your researches to a Bible and prophets.
Yes.
But from in the same time, the regular people who are described in the Bible, they've been eating meat, yeah?
Yeah.
And meat as well was fed to slaves who were doing building works in ancient Egypt. As well, the meat was given to soldiers in all the time, so they can cope with what they have to cope. So why do they do that then?
Because they're stupid. It's very obvious when you look at these historical examples. You're looking at sources that will give you proof of what we're talking about. Specifically, what I'm saying to you is that the pyramid, if you go and check it out, was based on an herbivore diet, based upon garlic. Okay? You cannot give soldiers, workers, poison animal flesh and expect them to do anything except get sick. Because that's what will happen. Autoimmune reactions, inflammation, sickness. That's what we're talking about. When you look at the longest lived people, the people of the Hunza in the Pakistan mountains, these people are total vegans. Okay? Because again, the human body cannot tolerate proteins, fats from non-animal sources. They just can't. They cannot deal with non-plant-based proteins, fats, and other elements. If it comes from an animal, it's going to have an inflammation antigen response. I mean, it's rocket science. If you put animal in a vegan body, you're going to get sick.
George, but how about the recent researchers that the most healthy people are Chukchis and Eskimos that live beyond the Arctic cycle, and their food is mostly made from meat, raw or freezed, and those people don't have almost any illnesses, the lowest percent in whole Earth at the moment, and they life length, it's a maximum on the Earth.
That's bullshit. There is no Eskimos eating animal flesh. that live beyond 130 years old? It's bullshit. There is no such thing. The longest lived people are the Hamza people of Pakistan. I've already given you the quote on that. The book out on the Hamza is very clear. The Hamza are the oldest living people. There's also a people called the Anu out of Japan. Okay? Again, you do not find people eating meat living very long. They don't live over 85 years old. Because again, the autoimmune reactions kill them. Period. So this bullshit that you keep bringing up to me, that there's some Eskimos that live to be, that's bullshit. Period. There is no such thing.
Right.
You cannot have a human being that's a vegan, eating animal, and living beyond 80 years old. Period. It's not possible.
Thank you, George. Another question would be about porphyrio. That's an illness, how they call vampire people, yeah?
Yes.
And those people, just to explain for our listener, that they have to have a blood in their diet because the liver not capable of processing certain enzymes, right? And this, of course, is a mutation, but those people can survive eating doing a meat diet and give a healthy offspring afterwards without this mutation. So how do they go about the vegan diet?
There are a lot of examples of humanid behavior, that is cannibal, vampirism. And when you look at those groups of people, you find that they can coexist for a short period of time, but they don't go beyond 85 years old. Because again, the autoimmune reactions kill them. So all I can say is that there are exceptions to the rule, but we're talking about, again, how do you get a civilization like the Hunza in the Pakistan mountain Himalayas? How do you get an organization like that where the average lifespan is 120 years old? I have the documentation. I'll send it to you on the Hunza. It's based upon the vegan diet. You cannot generate human health based upon eating animal flesh. It's not possible biochemically because of the autoimmune reactions. Again, the human body will not assimilate any dietary cholesterol. It will not assimilate any animal protein or fat. Period. And anyone that says that it does is a bone-faced liar, or they're ignorant, or both.
Thank you, George, very much. Another question is about B12 vitamin, because many people who like doing research about diets and stuff, medicals as well, pharmacists, they're saying that basically yes, vegan diet is possible, it can be healthy and very beneficial. However, a B12 vitamin is not possible to get from the vegetables or fruits whatsoever. So how could you help us with that, please? Could you advise us where on earth we can find this B12 so we don't need to be a cannibal?
B12 is most important. It's cobalamin. Cobalamin is the basis of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the element that carries oxygen to the cells in the body. Without B12, you can't function. The interesting thing about the human body, and proof that the human body is vegan, is based on the fact that vitamin B12 is not supposed to be sourced from any plant source. It's to be made by beneficial bacteria in your gut. specifically bifidus and acidophilus. Now that's where B12 comes from. In other words, again, we have a symbiotic relationship between bacteria in the gut, which make B12 in your gut. That's where it comes from. There is no need to eat red meat to get B12. That's a primitive, cannibalistic, backward ass thinking. Not necessary.
Thank you, George, very much. The last question I have for today is more philosophical. What do you think, George? If we all become vegan, won't we actually destroy all the rest of animals in order to grow a food for ourselves without the hazards?
Well, first of all, let's not be tripping about all the other animals, because the animals that you're talking about are cloned inventions in the first place. Domesticated animals. Domesticated animals were created by these gangsters who bamboozled us into thinking that we needed to eat meat in the first place. So for me to be worried about the disappearance of cows and the disappearance of sheep and pigs, I'm not going to be worried about it. What you're going to see in the next 10 years is a vegan revolution on planet Earth. There's no doubt about it. Because after my series of debates, and I have identified that the genome of human beings is vegan, then no one, unless they're brain dead, is going to continue to eat meat. Because if you do, you're going to die of heart attacks, heart failure, stroke, sepsis, liver disease, kidney disease, ulcerative colitis, sepsis, hypertension, spontaneous cancer.
Thank you, George, very much. Is there anything else you would like to say for the people who are going to watch or listen that? Maybe is that something I didn't ask you but is very important you would like to bring forward?
I would like for everyone who is blessed to hear any part of this presentation to understand that the people that helped put this together have done a glorious, magnanimous thing. Second, join the revolution. Stop being bamboozled. Read Genesis 1:29 for yourself, and you'll clearly see that when you become a vegan, all your health problems disappear. All your mental problems disappear. All your drug problems disappear. All your general physical problems disappear. Thank you.
Thank you, George.